What's up, everybody? My name is Dell. This is Dell on Movies. Thanks for hanging out with me. If you've been here before, thanks for hanging out with me again. Welcome to another episode of Movie Swap. And tonight is an exciting night for me because this is one of the people who had a heavy influence on me actually getting into this YouTube game, and she doesn't even know it yet. But I'm going to tell her again as soon as I bring her in. Her own channel is fantastic. It is Movie Chatter. She has been spent a lot of time here lately talking about Criterion like everybody else and giving us some great insight. And I am talking about Stephanie of Movie Chatter. Hey, Stephanie.
Hey Dal, what's up?
What's going on? So I will start right there. So during the pandemic is when I started watching YouTubers as far as movies goes.
Okay.
And your channel was one that came up when I was watching collection. A lot of, this was when everybody was doing the big whole collection videos, and some of these videos were
Mm-hmm.
2, 3 hours long.
Yeah.
And yeah, yours came up and I watched it. And then for whatever reason, your style spoke to me. So I was like, oh, well, let me see what else she's got. And then I started watching a lot of your channel. And I was like, okay, I think I can do what she does. Obviously, I'm not as good, but I try. So I want to thank you for at least being one of the influences in getting me into Bluetooth, so to
That's
speak.
awesome. That's awesome. Thank you. I'm glad you found the channel. I'm glad you enjoyed the content and you've obviously seen the transformation of my hair, which is great. Um
Yes.
but that's very kind, and I've been watching your channel since we decided we were going to hook up, and I enjoy your content and I think you're fantastic. You have great movie knowledge, great presence on film and on video, and I just think you're doing a great job.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So we got mutual feelings here.
Yeah, a lot of
So
love in the house.
a lot of love in the house. So let's get into Criterion for just a minute because,
Sure.
like you, I mean, we've all been buying up a lot of Criterion this month because of the sale.
Right.
Do you have a favorite pickup this year?
Favorite pickup this year? Wow. I really liked Triangle of Sadness. I know that was a super divisive film. People either loved it or they hated it.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm on the hate side, but go ahead.
okay. You know what? I wasn't crazy about the third act. That was my least favorite, but overall I enjoyed it. I laughed a lot. Um, I was so happy when Malcolm X came to Criterion
Hmm.
because I thought it was so deserving of a Criterion. So I was really happy to see Malcolm X. And I'm trying to think what else I liked. You know, I just got the Pasolini box set. I haven't shared that yet,
Hmm.
but I was excited about that. And the Agnes Varda set is fantastic. If you if you like Agnes Varda, that set is fantastic. It's all her films. So those would be some of my tops of the year, just off the top of my head.
Okay, I've not seen any of Agnes Varda's films, but I've seen you and a few other people talk about them, so I'm intrigued. I didn't get it, so maybe the
Yeah.
next sale I might make that plunge. I did pick up the small axe films from Steve McQueen,
Mm-hmm.
and I've seen a couple of those, and they're really good. Malcolm X again, big pickup.
Mm-hmm.
Cooley House probably my favorite pickup because I thought it was never going to get out of DVD. To
I
be
have to get
honest
that
with you.
one. It was so back ordered. I tried to get it through Amazon. It was so back ordered.
Wow. So yeah, luckily the Barnes and Noble in my area actually, well, I have two of them pretty close to me, and both of
Mm-hmm.
them still have a decent amount of Criterion on the shelves. Not as much as they used to, and but they both had Cooley High in stock, so I was lucky that way.
We have none.
Man.
No, we
Now,
have not had physical media in years, and they redid the Barnes and Noble by us and took out all the physical media, so everything's online ordering.
man, they're doing that with Best Buys around me, but so far Barnes
Yep,
and Noble
those two.
they're at least keeping it. And
Yep.
in your last video, you also talked about a movie you guys are gonna talk about. I guess with John, you're gonna talk about pretty soon, or unless I missed it already. Petite Maman, is that correct? Oh,
We're gonna make that video. We're busy taking our notes as we speak, so getting our format together.
okay. Now I haven't seen that movie. I have seen Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which I really liked.
Right.
Really excellent movie. But I have seen another movie included on the Petite Maman set. My Life as a Zucchini,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a big fan of that movie. And
Mm-hmm.
I know you spoke about it a little bit in your video, but just for future guests possibly who might be watching this because it's going to be on list that I recommend. So,
It
what did
is.
you think of it?
You know what? I saw it one time and I fell asleep.
Oh man, you're
I don't
killing me.
I liked what I saw, but I didn't make it through the whole thing awake, but I did like it. I do plan to rewatch it, and I am happy that it was included as a special feature, as a full special feature on that disc, because other than that and the commentary, there's really not much as far as special features, but if you're gonna throw something on, put one of her films on.
Okay, okay.
But I have to
Yeah,
rewatch it.
yeah. I have my Fuzu Zucchini as a standalone Blu-ray, so I may get Petite Maman, especially if I get Portrait of a Lady on Fire, but I'm haven't quite gotten to that point yet that I'm going to do
It's
that.
so different. That's it's tough. I actually wasn't going to pick it up because I have it on a region B. I have a region one region free player. And I
Hmm.
picked up, I think it was a Mubi, I think put it out, MUBI.
Hmm.
And they put out a region B and I watched it before it was even announced that it was coming to Criterion because I didn't think it was going to get a Criterion release for some reason. And I my takeaway was kind of like, I don't really know what happened. I was lost in several places. And I have since watched it, I've got to say 3 more times. And what really made me pick it up was when John talked about it on his channel.
Okay.
And he started telling me the importance of certain special features, that interview special feature, he said really kind of pulls the story out. And I'm like, all right, I know there's a beautiful story in there, so I've got to get my hands on it now. But it's very, very different from Portrait.
Okay. And now you saying that is tough for me because I'm not a big special features guy.
Right.
I generally don't watch them.
Hmm.
Even though I do have a number of criterions, I'd rather watch the next movie. I watch another movie than the special features most times, so that's gonna be tough for me.
You know what? I used to do like I used to be like that. Like I hear you. Like let's get to the next movie. Like these few hours that I could spend in the special features, I could be watching a whole nother movie. But what I do now is I found that there have been more than one occasion where I have changed my entire opinion about a movie based on the special features. Even if it's only to watch the sit down interview that maybe they had with the director, the writer director. Because you kind of
Okay.
understand if you feel like maybe you're missing something, you can understand where their headspace is at and where they're coming from that maybe didn't come through or you didn't connect with it on your first
Hmm.
watch. So for that, even if you only watch those parts, like, and they're usually like 26 minutes to 40 minutes. They're very short usually.
Okay.
Um, I just find that they're very helpful if you feel like there's a disconnect between you and the movie. And on more than one occasion, it's brought me around. So that kind of changed my opinion of the special features. It's kind of an investment in the movie.
Got you. Okay. Okay. That sounds fair. All right. Let's see who is out here hanging out in the chat with us tonight. We got Johnny. Sorry, not Johnny. We got Guy from
Yeah,
Caveman Movies and
caveman.
More. Is can't wait to see you and what you two watch. Smack that like button before you leave. Absolutely. Everybody out there, smack the like button. Help us out. And of course, if you haven't subbed to Stephanie over at Movie Chatter, go do so. And sub to Caveman. Caveman's got a great channel. Also,
Yeah.
Adrian James is here as usual.
Hey,
Says
Adrian.
hi, Dell and Steph.
Hello.
Another hi from
Holland
Holland
Oats.
Oats. Holland Oats is another regular, as is Laren. Says, hey, Dell and Stephanie. Good evening
Cool.
to you both. Good evening, Laren.
Hello.
Spicy 4K action is in the house. Spicy says up, Dell and Stephanie.
Cool.
And here's a friend of yours, Cinema Dave Media. It says, hi, Dell
Cinema
and Stephanie.
Dave.
Good evening. All right. I'm going to come back to Cinema Dave in a minute as far as just us talking here in just a minute, though. Miss Caveman is here, of course. Wherever Caveman is, there's Miss
There
Caveman
you
right
go.
there.
Hello, Miss Caveman.
And she says, actually, howdy. We got some people saying hi back and forth to each other. The
Cool.
monkey is here. So, Stephanie, you'll do great on this swap. Welcome to the club.
Thank you, the monkey.
Monkey was he's an alum. He did an earlier movie swap.
Monkey's cool. Monkey comes by and visits us on the Saturday stream.
Yes, it does. Trini says, what up? What's going on, Trini?
Trini?
And we got more highs back and forth. He says, hey, Holland, if you're still here. And it says, Dell, I keep freezing. Just of why we can hear you perfectly. Okay. Um, Now, let me give everybody a little bit of info on that. So, I finally bought an Ethernet cable long enough to reach to my computer on the other side of the room. So, I'm trying it out tonight. So, hopefully, it gets better. We'll see how that works up. And hey, Spicy. And all right, I'm looking down for anyone else who may have popped in. There's one. Huck says, "Hey, Dell. Hey,
Hey,
Steph.
Huck.
Great to see you both." Huck's the trivia man.
Mm-hmm.
And Emmett says, "Do you have the worst movie Nicolas Cage has starred in?" He's got my name on there, but I'm gonna throw it to you first. What do you think is the worst Nicolas Cage movie?
Oh, there's so many to choose from. Oh, what's the worst? The worst. I I wasn't a big fan of Color Out of Space, and I wasn't a big
Mhm.
fan of Mandy.
I've yet to see either of those actually. I have Mandy, and I started watching it one night, but it was one of those I started like 1 o'clock in the morning, and that was no way I was gonna finish that movie, even though I thought I was.
Have you seen Renfeld or
Not
Renfeld?
yet. That's gonna be. I'm
That's
gonna
good.
watch that pretty soon.
That one's
Yeah.
good. That's good. He
I would.
that Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that if I were picking my worst, I'd probably go Wicker Man remake.
I haven't seen it. I love the original so much I can't bring myself to watch it.
You don't do it. You're not missing
No.
anything. Just
All right. I'm
the
not doing it
original
then.
is the original is excellent.
Yep.
Don't you'll ruin it.
Yeah, no,
That's
I
for
won't.
sure. John is in the house. He says looking forward to tonight.
John. Yep.
And so is Film Addiction. He says, "Hey, they'll love the
Cool.
show. Everyone hit the like button. Thank you very much." And we do have an answer from the audience. The monkey says 8 millimeter simply because the source material and the content.
Yeah, I like that
It was
one.
rough. I did like 8 millimeter. It was rough though. I will agree with that. It was
It
definitely
was. It's a rough watch.
yeah, it absolutely is. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the reason why we're here. I'm gonna turn it over to you. Just let us know the movie that you have chosen for me to watch.
Do you want an overview or just the title?
Both.
Okay. I picked well, one of the choices I gave Dell was 9 Days. And this came out in I believe 2020 or 2021. And basic plot synopsis is you have a little house sitting in the middle of nowhere, and I'm going backwards. This guy, his name is Will. He sits in front of a wall of televisions. And he watches them all day long. Then one day something happens and one of the televisions goes blank, and people start to show up at his door, and they are told that they are being given an opportunity to have life. And if they make it to the end of this journey, the full journey will be 9 days. So we meet the people one by one, and they ask questions, and he asks different tasks of them. He puts them in different situations. What would you do if you found a lost wallet? What would you do with this? What would you do with that? So it makes them question their moralities, what their morals are, what their goals are. And for me, this was just a really emotional ride and one that stayed with me. And I don't want to say too much because I'm not about spoilers, but I figure we'll get more into the conversation. That is basically that's the basic plot synopsis. So we meet these characters and we find out about them and follow them on their potential 9-day journey to try and regain access to a new life. That's it.
All right. So I'm gonna just reiterate something for people who are unfamiliar with the movie.
Hmm.
You did hear Stephanie correctly. They are trying to basically be born into the world is what they're trying to do.
Yep.
So this is, I guess, a pre-life. I guess you would call this.
Well,
Which well,
purgatory.
let me throw that out at you. Is it yeah? Is it purgatory? Is it a pre? Is it a pre-life? Is it an afterlife? Because we
Well,
also meet some characters. Go ahead.
my take on it was that it was kind of like a purgatory situation where they had a life something ended that and they were being given a second chance potentially at a new chance on a life. Um, but
Okay.
I kind of know what you're saying. There's someone who maybe had a different arc.
Right. And
Right.
so the reason why it didn't read as purgatory to me is because, like I said, I read it as them trying to be born for the first time. And then we also have the character played by Benedict Wong, Kaio,
Mhm.
who's never been alive.
Right.
So it was a little confusing as far as that. I was trying to piece that together.
Cuz I was going a lot by Will because he had a story to tell.
Right, he did.
Will had a huge story to tell, and that it was because he had been alive. And
Mhm.
Kaio, they said, when Emma said something to Kaio, he said, "Well, I've never been alive." So I think Will was the only one that I actually heard speak about his life, and then
Mhm.
Kaio was the only one that I actually heard them say had never been alive.
Right,
But the
right.
reason I went with the assumption that it was a purgatory type situation is because a lot of them had memories,
Okay.
like that were triggered by like the guy was doing the drawing and different
Mhm.
different cues, but I guess it's left up to interpretation.
Okay, okay. And that would make sense because one of the questions that was also kind of nagging at me while I was watching was basically how are they so human? They're thinking like humans and expressing themselves the way
Right.
humans would. So and they haven't been human yet. So yeah, that I mean that makes sense. It was just kind of it was one of the things that was kind of hanging over the movie for me, like, is
Really.
it this or is it that? What is it? Now, of course, through Will's story, and I'm getting to work through that and the stories of the people that he's interviewing.
Hmm.
And the one of the early ones we meet is Mike. Is I'm looking at his name right now and I can't say his last name, but it's David Ryasdal. I think that's how you say his name. But anyway, he plays a guy named Mike, and his character is like what was the best way you would describe Mike? Let me ask you that.
uh Mike, he to me was just too quick to he didn't have confidence.
Mhm.
He didn't have the
Okay.
confidence that he didn't have the confidence in himself, or he kept apologizing and not and
Right.
thinking
Yeah.
that he kept thinking that he was less than,
Yes.
you
He
know?
did.
Yeah, like he was just over apologetic about everything, but like it was almost like he was almost apologizing out loud to himself more than anything?
Right, right, right. And then there was Alexander. It was played by Tony Hill. It was Alexander, and he was seemed to be quickly emotional about everything.
Hmm.
And then he was also, I don't know, easily appeased, I guess you would, because everything boiled down to, well, let's go, let's have a barbecue and just chill out
Yeah.
and drink some beers, and but then when something would happen, he'd kind of break down pretty quickly. So I thought he was an interesting character. Also, I don't know how you felt about him.
I felt like his humor was a defense, almost borderlining on self-deprecating humor.
Hmm. Hmm.
But like you said, he was easily triggered. There obviously were issues where his mother was involved, and that came out super easy.
Right.
Um, I just felt like he was like just this emotional roller coaster, and it was easy to get him off track and easy to get him back on track. Like you said, he's easily appeased. Sit down, have a beer with me,
Right.
and now
Right.
we're buddies. We're buddies, and we're happy. So like he wasn't looking for much, but it was very obvious that he really needed a lot.
Yes, he did.
You
He
know,
did. Now, yeah, go ahead.
No, no, no. I'm just that's what I'm just that was my opinion. I was kind of looking to you
Yeah.
to see what you thought.
No, yeah, I'm pretty much the same way. Yeah, he was like like the other character, like Mike. I
Hmm.
don't think he had much confidence either. Um
Right.
he was kind of just looking for a friend all the time.
Yeah, and that
Um
would be the inappropriate laughter and the, like laughing
right.
at inappropriate times and like it was all a ruse because he didn't have his footing yet. And so for him, the laughter came easier than dealing with the reality of what was probably there.
Right, right. Now, I'm not going to spoil the film at all, but just
No.
from watching it at the beginning, uh, I I was immediately thinking that it was going to come down to two certain characters.
Mhm.
And I will say who those characters are, but I'm not going to say what happens.
Mhm.
But we have Kane, played by Bill Skarsgård.
Mhm.
Uh, he was one. And then we have Emma, played by Zazie Beetz.
Mhm.
And these two characters were the complete polar opposite of one another. Uh, Emma, full of well, she was full. She had a lot of compassion, but she was also full of questions. She was also just wanting to know why. Everything Will says to her is why, and Kane was the opposite in that, okay, I'm presented with a situation, we're going to deal with it directly, immediately, and often he would say violently in a violent manner.
Mhm.
Um, so with those two guys, with those two characters, I should say, um, do you how do you think they were written as far as were they well written to do what they were tasked to do as characters?
Did they do? Are you asking me, did they do what they were tasked to do?
Yeah, yeah. Or
Um,
how were their characters were they written well enough for what the movie wanted it to do?
uh, I can say that, well, like you said, they're polar opposites, and they're both grating at times because
Hmm.
they're like so far to the extremes. And at one point, someone says, "Why do you always look at it this way?" And the other person says, "Why don't you look at it this way?" Like when they're face to face having a conversation. And I think
Right.
that pretty much sums up how the characters were written. They couldn't have been more different. And to me, Kane was very like, just tell me what I need to do to win this. Tell me what I need to do to finish, and that's what I'll do. I'll give you whatever answers you want, whether they're the right ones or not, whether
Right.
it's what I truly believe or not. Like, I don't know that he was faithful to anyone, including himself. I think he lacked a moral compass at points. And
Okay.
I think that he just wanted to know what he needed to do to finish the task.
Right.
And then Emma, I think she took a totally different route, but maybe was walking down a similar path because she tried to go the more insightful way. And like you said, everything is a why? But then she takes that mirror and instead of just holding it up to herself, she flips it on Will.
Hmm.
And that is a big thing because you don't do
Yes, it
that.
is.
You don't do that. And in that world.
Hmm.
Um
And but
yeah, no, no. So that I mean, I think they were supposed to be two sides of that coin, and that's exactly what they brought to the story.
okay. Now we brought up Will a little bit,
Mhm.
and as much as we talked about this competition early on, it like you said earlier, is Will has a story to tell. It's Winston Duke plays Will, by the
Yep.
way. Um, but it's Will's story to tell, and what these all these other characters are here to do is facilitate the telling of that story, and possibly, hopefully, to get it out of him is what we're kind of getting at all the entire movie. We got Kaio, who's always kind of second guessing him and trying to kind of let him know that, hey, I know that there's something eating at you. You need to let it out. And
Mhm.
then of course, we got Kane, and we have Emma, and then even Mike and Alexander. They're all, you know, to some degree, he sees himself in all of them to some degree.
Mhm.
and then it becomes how can he bear to hold on to it because he's really guarded at the
Oh,
beginning
yeah.
of the movie.
Oh, yeah. And I think the more that facade is chipped away at, and the more he feels that happening, the more pushback he's giving. And he's trying to distance himself from whatever individuals make him uncomfortable with his story and his truth.
That is true because yeah, whenever someone brings it up, he's really. I mean, he acts out. I mean,
Yep.
immediately and swiftly shuts him down
Yep.
as quickly as possible.
Yep.
And yeah, he does not want whatever that truth is. He does not want to deal with it at
No, not at all.
not at all at any point. Let me see what if anybody else is talking about 9 days out here. Film Addiction says, "Damn, this 9 days sounds great," and I think he put that up just from your synopsis because that was one of the first comments that came up.
Huh.
So hopefully you'll check it out. And John says, "Yes, I love 9 days so much. Stephanie told me to buy this film, and it wrecked me in such a great way."
Yeah,
I
John and I were both
understand.
wrecked for weeks.
And we got some more highs back and forth. And K says, just FYI, it is on Stars to help you with your decision. Yeah, that's
Cool.
where I watched it. I watched it on Stars.
Okay.
So if anybody else still out there wants to see it, it is still there, at least as of now. If you don't want to buy it, Tiana is in the house. Tiana loves movies. Hey everyone, wanted to stop in and
Hey.
say hey Tiana, and we got hey Tiana, the Blu-ray Queen. All right, so here we go. So Caveman says Oda said the director Oda said the film was an exploration of how real loss can create both the burden and gift of being alive. The character of Will is based on his uncle who died by suicide at age 50 when, continued next comment, Oda was 12 years old. Oda said people would go on to remember his uncle for how he died instead of for the life he lived. Now, that is an interesting piece of information. Had you ever heard that before?
No, because what I heard is that it is a retelling of the Criterion, I believe it's Japanese movie Afterlife.
Okay. Okay.
So uh, I've heard that version. And I know
Okay.
that there were people on IMDb specifically that were unhappy that Oda claimed that it was a brand new work instead of a retelling of.
Okay.
And that was something that I heard after I had seen the movie because nobody said it before. And I think it may have been someone who watched one of my videos suggested in the chat to check out Afterlife. And I had already purchased it, I had it in my watch pile. And they said that 9 days is a retelling of Afterlife. So I then watched Afterlife, of course.
Okay. Are they pretty close?
Uh,
'Cause I
yes.
haven't seen Afterlife.
Um, Similar. Not exactly, but you could see where someone could say this is just a retelling of Afterlife. I
Okay.
I do still like 9 days more. I really did
Okay.
like. I liked Afterlife. I just like 9 days more. I
Got
thought
it.
it went
Okay.
9 days went deeper.
Okay. Okay. Like I said, I haven't seen Afterlife, and so I didn't know any of that history.
Yeah, I
So
one of my people on one of my in the comments on one of my videos told me that I had never heard it before, and I'm like, you know what, I got to check this out. So it was sitting there, and I'm like, why am I not watching this? So I did.
there's so many movies like that in my collection.
Oh, I
Why am I
know,
not watching this?
I
Why?
know.
Why is this collected so
Get
much
on it.
dust? So yeah, I do want to check out Afterlife now. Emmett
Yeah.
has a Emmett comes in. He always has questions, and he says at the end of Hardball, did the death of G Baby really hit you? It did for me. I don't know if you've seen Hardball with Keanu Reeves, the baseball movie.
Oh, I have it. I don't. I have not watched it.
Yeah, well, he kind of spoiled it, but
Who doesn't
um,
spoil movies, right? It's cool.
right. but it is a good movie. All right,
Yeah.
so let's get back to Will for a second.
All right.
Um, just in the performance of Will, how do you think Winston Duke handled the role?
Oh, I thought he was unbelievable. I want more of him.
Yeah, I think he's kind of he's one of those actors that when he's gotten a few bigger roles and now he's kind of pigeonholed into them.
Yeah.
So now everybody wants to see him in the role he plays in the Black Panther movies
Right.
or like the big goofy dad and Get Out and not Get Out in Us.
Okay. Yeah. 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 I knew he looked
Where
familiar from there. I mean, I knew him from the Black Panther movies, but I didn't know. I'm like, I've seen him in other places. So he
yeah,
okay. So he was in Us. Yeah. Right.
yeah, he was a dad in Us, and he's
Okay.
capable of more. Um, but yeah, you just kind of, especially with the MCU movies, it's like okay, once you get in there, it's like everybody just sees you as whatever character you play in the MCU.
And see, luckily, I'm kind of out of that loop, and it's been so long since I've watched all of that. So I'm just seeing things through different eyes, I guess.
I hear you. I'm an MCU fan,
Oh, me too. Me too. I
but
watched from the beginning.
yeah, but I think we're at an age where we recognize that okay, that they can play this role, but they can also go on and play something else.
Absolutely.
Whereas a lot of the target audience for those movies are, you know, that's what you are. Whatever you show up on the screen as,
Sure.
that's what you
Sure.
are.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
and also we also had the opportunity being in the certain age group that we're not going to mention, uh,
right.
of maybe seeing them before they were
Yeah.
in the MCU, so you know that they're capable of other things. But I think what happened is the MCU ran so long.
Hmm.
You had such a long time span with those movies. What was it, like 20 years almost that they were going?
The MCU, it's been since
Yeah.
2008 now.
Oh,
So
2008. Okay, so 15, probably close to 15.
yeah,
I
so
can't add.
15 years.
But I
Yeah.
mean, that's a long run, and to see someone as a certain character, like if you were younger when they started and that's the only thing you've really ever seen, you haven't seen them before.
Yeah.
We knew them before. Um, you know, then I guess it could be easy for people to pigeonhole certain actors into certain
Yeah.
roles or
I mean, just
character types.
think about if you were 5, 2008 was when Iron Man came out. If you were 5 when
Exactly.
Iron Man came out, you don't know
Right.
Robert Downey Jr. from anything
No.
else,
No. No. No.
or even Gwyneth Paltrow or
Yep.
or
Yeah,
some
any
of
of
the other
them.
actors, any of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's I get it. I get why it happens.
Sure.
But I hope he manages to break out of that and do more and more things. I agree. He was really good here, and I thought most of the actors, matter of fact, all of the cast, I thought was really good. Um, Zazie Beats gave me a lot. She gave me a lot of layers to her character, more
Oh,
layers
yeah.
than some of the other characters. And I thought she was really good.
Yeah.
Uh, Bill Skarsgård was an interesting performance for me. It was like you said, he showed a kind of his character showed kind of a focus on okay, I'm gonna win. I just need to do what I need to do, and I thought that just came through in his expressions. It wasn't always he didn't really say that at any point, but it just came through. So I would
Well, he
yeah.
he actually kinda did because he said, "Just tell me what I need to do to win the
Oh
game, and I'll
yeah,
do it."
yeah, yes. You're right.
You
I forgot
know?
about that.
Like,
You're
that
right about that.
one he said it that one time, and I was like, "Wow, okay." He just showed his whole hand with that to Will.
Right.
But then the other thing that I'm thinking of that showed that lack of a moral compass was the wallet question, if you remember that.
Yeah, was it with $500 in the wallet,
What would you do?
and what would you do? Yeah,
Mhm. Like, I
and
think he showed a lot of I think he tipped his hand a lot more than he
mhm,
he should have for us to wanna root for him.
right, right. So now let's speculate for a minute. Let's put ourselves in Will's shoes because he's basically the final judge on this. He gets to make the call. I mean, Kyle has to kind of sign off on it,
Right,
but he really gets to make the call.
right.
What do you? So we're just to speculate a little bit early on in the movie. What do you think he's looking for?
I think he is looking for someone who, and I'm going by how we start,
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
something happens that makes him question everything he's ever done, right? And it
Hmm.
haunts him
Yes.
through the rest of the movie.
Right.
So I think what he's trying to do when he's meeting these people and evaluating them, I think that he is trying to find people that will make the most of the opportunity, even if they make mistakes and even if they get tripped up, that they're going to make the most that life has to offer. They're going to take everything and run with it as best they can. And it doesn't mean you have to be perfect because there is no
Right.
perfect answer. We all know that. But he wants someone who's going to succeed on whatever level they're capable of, just to find a well-rounded, fulfilling life. That's what I took from it.
Yeah. I'm along those same lines. Only
Mhm.
thing I might change slightly is I would say he was looking for somebody who wouldn't make those mistake he made.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
Yeah. That.
Because when he does his little monologue, which I'm not gonna get into, it was in not at the end, but in the middle,
Mhm.
basically telling his little story as best he can.
Mhm.
You see how he would not want anyone to experience what he did.
Right.
So he's gonna
Right.
avoid that at all costs if he sees a hint of himself in someone.
Yes. And it comes to a head with one of the other characters. I'm not gonna say
Yep.
yet.
Yep.
Who I'm not gonna say who it is, but it comes to a
Nope.
head really that one of the characters is kind of a lot like him,
Yep.
and that's kind of coloring his decision,
Yep.
and that's where Kaio is kind of stepping in.
Mhm.
So with Kaio, so, so is he? I don't know. Is he an angel, or is he just a soul that just never could get to be born, but is supposed to be at some point? What do you think about him?
To me, Kaio, he represented to me like a conscience, if
Okay.
you will, um, in a living form in the movie. But they say that he was never alive. So to me, he was that conscience, that balance that we all try to find between right and wrong, good and bad. What you know, and
Hmm.
by questioning, by saying these questions, it almost made me think that is Kaio just a part of Will's psyche who's forcing these questions upon him? That
Okay.
was that was my deeper dive into Kaio. I saw him more as a as an extension of Will and his whole psyche.
That makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I was along those lines, but I was also thinking, well, yes, he was an extension of Will, but also a stand-in for the audience, kind of
Okay.
watching him and going,
Okay.
this is what you should do next. This is what you should do, but you're not doing it. And it was kind of like us saying that to Will also.
Right. Yeah.
So
I could see that.
eh, okay, okay.
You know, it's
And
really left up to the viewer's interpretation. I mean, I don't think either answer is right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of how it
mm,
hits you, you know? So if
I agree with that.
that if that's how it hits you, then it fits. It definitely fits. It makes sense. So
Yeah, yeah.
I think either way, I think it can, since there's no clear interpretation of it, I think it has to be whatever you kind of walk away with. But
And
I think it
that
definitely
is
can
gonna
be
be
accurate.
and I think that's why this movie isn't more known or bigger, is because so
Mhm.
much is left up to interpretation.
Mhm.
And sorry to say, but we don't like to think about movies that much. We just want to go
See,
in,
I
see the
do.
good guy win. Yeah. And
No.
well, when I say we, I mean
No,
collectively,
I
not
know. I
not
know.
you or I. But
Mhm.
yeah.
You
So
know what?
but I
Sometimes
think
I
that's why
do.
it didn't have a big audience.
I think
Okay.
sometimes I do, and that's when I put on movies like The Meg.
Yeah,
Like,
we all
I
have
needed to
those
just
times.
of course, yeah, but I mean, generally,
Yeah.
I like to I don't wanna be spoon-fed,
Right,
generally.
right. And a lot of people do, and I think that's why it
Sure,
didn't
that's
find a
fine too.
bigger audience. Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't
That's
really
just
marketed heavily either.
no, I remember like hearing the title but not really knowing anything about the movie.
Right,
So when you suggested it, I had to look it up to see what it was. I was like, oh, okay, that
right.
sounds cool.
Mhm.
Just checking in with the chat here. The monkey says, "Imagine if at the end of Hardball we see the last minute from Morpheus watching Keanu. That would be funny. That would be interesting. That would be kind of like Interstellar almost. Of course, Morpheus is from the Matrix, and
Mhm.
Keanu is in the Matrix, and he's in Hardball, so that would be funny or interesting." Caveman says that's a deep cut. And KB is here. He says, Steph, brother Dell, good people right here. What's going on,
"Hey,
KB?
B, how are you?"
Oh yeah. KB is the man with the conversations. And it's been a little while since the last one. I'm getting withdrawal symptoms. I need a new conversation there, KB. All right, K-Man, just think that you never knew Pepper Potts did sliding doors or sold candles. I did know about the candles. So Caveman was on last week, and I actually
Mhm.
watched Sliding Doors for the first time last week.
Okay.
And so I didn't know about that, but I did know Gwyneth Paltrow from plenty of stuff. And unfortunately, I did know about the candles. I don't know if you know about the candles that she sold.
I do not.
Oh, a couple years back she caused a big uproar on the internet because she started selling candles that smelled like her private parts.
Oh my lord. Alright, well, I'm sorry I missed that one.
Yeah, yeah,
Alright.
I, yeah. Monkey says, Plaid the man, your presence on these live streams is definitely in demand. And I love Stephanie's film knowledge. Yes, we do.
Thank you.
And John agreeing, woohoo for deeper movies, make America think again.
There you
I
go,
love it.
John.
I love it. I love it. And the monkeys is more her portrayal in Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow did me in. I've never seen that movie all the way through. I've only seen part of it.
Which one?
And he's
Sky
talking about
Captain?
Sky Captain.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen that one. I don't think I've seen either one of them, maybe not, I don't know.
I that's one title, Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow.
No, yeah, I know, I'm looking at and I was thinking, World of Tomorrow, I was thinking of a different title, the one with the one with the Statue of Liberty on the cover, it's like a disaster movie. Maybe it's Day After
Oh yeah, yeah,
Tomorrow.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Day After Tomorrow.
Day After Tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That
that's what I'm thinking of,
yeah,
okay.
that's a whole different movie.
I knew it was something
Um
tomorrow.
it was. Had John on a couple weeks back,
Mhm.
and I felt proud of myself because I actually introduced him to a 1930s movie. So I was pretty proud of that moment.
Very cool.
I know he is the go-to guy for that era of Hollywood. Him and Tim and a few others, the guy from really old movies. All
Yep.
right. So any well, let's talk about the directing of the movie. From our was Edson Oda is the name of the director. And I don't often bring up the director, but I did want to bring it up here because I think this is another area where it might have, uh, I guess, narrowed the audience a bit. And not that he did a bad job, because he didn't. He did a good job. Uh, but it's a movie that's really deliberately paced.
Mhm.
And do you think there was anywhere to tighten up the movie as far as that goes, or is it perfect just the way it is?
Well, I don't think there and I may be in the minority here. I don't think there's such a thing as a perfect movie because
Mhm.
once I say that something is a perfect 10, that means that there's never gonna be anything better. So,
Right.
I think there's always room for improvement. And I think it depends on the person who's watching the movie. If there
Okay.
was anything that maybe we could have tightened up on is some, I hate to call them this, but some of the throwaway characters, I don't think you needed as many.
Hmm.
I don't think you needed as many. So you could have made he could have made his decisions faster.
Hmm.
And we also took a lot of time. There was a lot of time dedicated to the Amanda storyline
Yes.
that kind of the Amanda storyline and the Will storyline kind of sit together. So I think maybe you could have trimmed the Amanda storyline a little bit,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. Because
Yeah.
really we're trying to
Well,
get to the root of Will's story. And it's
right.
almost being muddied by too much of the Amanda story. Like you could get rid of some of it. Like
Yeah, I agree with
this,
that because for me, with the man with that storyline, it was they were trying to get across his internal struggle. So
yeah,
they kept kind of going back to that to give the audience an
yeah,
easy reference point.
yep,
But I don't, this is part of the spoon feeding. They didn't need to. I mean, once we get it early on in the movie, maybe you
yeah,
can go back to it later in the movie, but you don't need
right.
to keep going back to it.
Right. Like, yeah, you did like, yeah, I think a lot of that, like we knew what was going on and we knew why it was an issue.
Hmm.
So like you
Hmm.
said, you don't have to
Exactly.
keep repeating it in different ways. So that could have cut some because it only comes in, I think, 2 hours and 4 minutes. It's not like it's a 4 hour movie or 3.5 hour movie. But
Right.
if you cut out, you could probably trim a good 20 minutes off if you cut the Amanda story down, and then you have almost like a 90 to 100-minute watch, which is, I think, a lot more consumable for most viewers.
Definitely, definitely. And since I'm going to go off topic a little bit. Since you brought
Mhm,
up length of the movie's runtime,
mhm.
not just for this particular movie, but I'm finding a lot of movies now are too long for no reason, apparently, or to me anyway. They don't justify their runtime. It's
Mhm.
like we get 2.5 hour, a 2.5 hour movie, but that should have been an hour 45.
Right.
And or especially we talked about the MCU earlier. A lot of that happens in the MCU, and every blockbuster movie now, whether it's MCU or not, it's got to be 2.5 hours long. Same with all the Oscar movies that get nominated for Best Picture. They're all 2.5, 3 hours long. And when I watch a lot of them, it's like, you know what? They could have told me the same story in a lot less time. So, and it's weird that they're doing that because we keep hearing over and over how attention spans are shrinking, but these movies keep getting longer. So
Yeah.
it's weird to me. I don't know if you how do you feel about the run times, or am I just reading too much into it?
No, I think again, I think it's a very personal thing. I agree with you that a lot of times they're when you're talking about awards, they're going to go for these big sweeping epics if they can,
Hmm.
for the big blockbusters. But like I remember, and if you want to talk about a blockbuster for point of reference, like I remember loving the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Yeah.
But I remember times when I really truly felt that runtime bad sitting in the theater. I was like, come on, like how much more of this do we have to do? Like how many beaches do we have to visit in one movie, you know? And that was a movie franchise that I really enjoyed. And I went out of my way to go to the theater to see it. And I just remember sitting in the seat and just saying, I just want it to end as much as I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
it's the same thing, like you said, MCU, Pirates of the Caribbean, or even like, but then you can take a film like a Casino, and I don't feel the runtime.
It's definitely on a movie to movie basis.
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
if the story you're telling is, you can justify keeping me there for 3 hours, I'm there with you. I have no problem with
Yep,
that.
yep,
But if it's 3 hours long and there's a lot of drag in it or a lot of unnecessary things just in the movie, then I'm like, okay, we could have cut this, that, and the other
yep.
and been out of here in a lot less time. And most recently would probably be the Avatar, the sequel, Way of Water. That movie was over 3 hours long, and I was like, this could have been. It literally could have been 90 minutes.
And now
But
you felt that?
oh, I felt it. I was bad because I was like, we could have cut all of this whale stuff could have been cut down to like 10 minutes.
All this whale stuff.
Yeah, and but on the other hand, though, I also went and saw Across the Spider Verse, and that was like 2.5 hours and close to 2.5 hours. And at the end of that, I was like, oh man, that I could have watched that for another 2 hours. the way
See,
because the
I
way the
didn't
story
see
was.
th I haven't seen the new one yet, but, I heard great things, but yeah, it depends, like, you can sail through a movie and not feel the runtime at all, but then there's other ones that you just it's like, "Come on," you just struggle, so case by case.
Yeah, definitely case by case. Um, all right, so let's go ahead and get back to this movie. Anything you wanted to touch on that I didn't?
Um, no, I mean, I love this movie. I have loved it from the first time I watched it. It was virtually unknown to me. I stumbled upon it. I picked it up and I was just immediately sucked into it. And I am a person who I do not cry at movies. I was crying at the end of this movie, crying. I was so moved. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, yeah,
And
yeah, it's
we're not gonna
definitely
ruin it.
emotional.
We're not
Yeah.
gonna ruin it. But that it just hit me and it stayed with me. And I immediately shared it with John. I said, John, you gotta watch this. And then like when he watched it, he immediately messaged me back and he's like, I'm wrecked. And we were both just wrecked. And I've watched it multiple times since then. And for me, it holds up. It's a solid watch. I love it. And each time I watch it, I feel like I learn a little bit more about the characters and the story they're trying to tell. And like I only recently made the link to like, you know, what's going on with Kaya? Why is he here? What is he? So it's just kind of
Right.
ironic that you asked that question because it only recently came to me on a subsequent watch that that's what he felt like to me.
Mhm.
So I think that each time I watch it, I'm discovering something new. And when I can find a movie like that that makes me want to come back and will show me something different each time, I think that's really a gift that filmmakers give us and the stories that they tell us. And for me, I just did this one personally for me holds up every time. But
Okay.
I know it's not for everyone.
Okay. All right. Well, let's find out if it's for me. I'm gonna go ahead and give my final thoughts, my overall thoughts
Mhm.
on 9 days. So, like we've been talking about, this is a movie that is it begs a lot of the viewer. You do have to make interpretations as the movie is going on, and then they change as the movie's happening. Things unfold, and maybe your whole viewpoint on a character might change, or the situation, your viewpoint on the situation might change. And I really did enjoy that about a movie because, like Stephanie, like you, I do enjoy thinking my way through a movie. Um, I recognize it's not going to be for everybody for the reasons that I talked about. It's not a whiz bang movie. There's not a lot happening that's going to jump off the screen at you. You have to get invested into the characters to really absorb what's happening and really be really enjoy the movie. If you're a person who's turned off by a lot of dialogue, this is not the movie for you because it is 100% dialogue.
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, other than the one little tiny thing that kind of sets off Will at the beginning of the movie.
Yep.
Um, but with all that said, like I said, I really did enjoy this movie. It's thinking my way through it and coming to a conclusion at the end of the movie. And I can see myself rewatching it and maybe coming to a different conclusion or adding on to what I already saw, and maybe changing my mind about some of the things that I
Mhm.
that I think now. So that is it's a piece of art in that it definitely is up for your interpretation and invites you to revisit that interpretation.
Right.
So I really did enjoy the movie.
Cool.
All right. Before we get to the other movie, let's see what people are saying out there. And we got a few comments here going on. So let me try to get through them as quick as I can. We got more Sky Captain talk. So watching Sky Captain in the world of tomorrow is like having me as president, never needed. That's what the monkey says. And John thanks him for that. And Caveman says, looks like this is Oda's first feature-length film, so it sounds like we have more to look forward to in the future from him. I hope so. I would definitely like to see more.
Yeah, he has a lot of shorts.
Okay. And the monkey says, speaking of that, Dell, Five Nights at Freddy's will run 3 hours. Wow. I know there's a movie coming about the game. I didn't know it was going to be a 3-hour movie. As a fan of the games, even I say that's too long for the source material, where it's a book series for a reason and not a TV series. Okay. Yeah, I had no idea it was going to be that long. So I hope they can pull it off, because I don't root for a movie to be bad. I hope they can pull it off, but
yeah,
I've got my doubts. Stephanie leaving the Pirates movies back in the day, trying to kick the sand out of her sandals. Please don't believe
See, the kicker in that is I probably didn't have sandals on, though. I probably had Crocs on, so now you guys can all make fun of me.
There you go. I'm not a Crocs fan, but I get it.
I have 4 dogs. I have to be a Crocs person because we need to get in and get out.
Spicy says, need to check this movie out. Yeah, check it out. Let me know what you think. It's a good movie. Trini says, leave Avatar alone. Man, I can't help it. I don't like either of those movies, but I really didn't like.
You didn't like either. You didn't like either one.
The first one was okay. I thought the first one was okay, but with both of those movies, it's once you leave the theater, I don't think it holds up. I don't think the value is it holds. And I've seen the first one at home, so I that one to me at home is just not really good, and in the theater it was only okay. It was beautiful to look at, but the story didn't do much for me. And the second one, like I said, I was just agonizing for 3.5 hours. So
see, now I was fine with it, probably because I was home, and I thought it was I just thought it was beautiful to look at.
It was that, yeah.
I wasn't super invested in the story, but when it was done, I felt like, all right, I'm kind of looking forward, because originally I didn't even I think because it had been so long between the original and the second one. I forgot about the first one, and I'm like, well, it's been forever. So I wasn't all hyped up to see it. I didn't go to the movies. I waited till it came out on Blu-ray on 4K. And I was pleasantly surprised, but I did watch it at home so I could take a break if I wanted, the whole get up and walk around thing. So I think that makes a big difference.
Maybe so. And I happen to live with a Avatar fan. My wife, she likes the movies, so I'm going to see the rest of them.
Whether you want to or not.
Whether I want to or not.
Good for you.
And I may have to buy it. So I have the first one. I may have to buy the second one. We'll see.
When I come back, when I check back on your channel, I want to see it sitting up on the shelf behind you. I'm going to put a little, maybe I'll mail you a copy, so you have to put it up in a frame.
Yeah, frame. That would be great. Yeah. All right, Johnson's 9 Days is definitely a film I will go back to multiple times. I walked away from that film so full of gratitude for the gift / opportunity of life.
Yep.
And yeah, it can definitely make you feel that way. I get that. The Monkeys talking to Trini says, I understand. I own the extended edition DVD set with slipcover. And the love story holds up even if everything else in it doesn't. I left it feeling they were truly in love. Are we talking about Avatar? Maybe we're talking about Avatar.
Maybe.
Because there is a love story in it, that's for sure. All right, so let's switch gears and switch over to the movie. Yeah, he is talking about Avatar. All right. So let's talk about the movie that I suggested for you to watch. And that movie, here it is. I put it slightly out of my own reach. That movie is completely opposite of this movie. This is not something deep and philosophical, that's for sure. This is just, to me, lots and lots of fun. I'm going to go solo for a minute. To me, this is a movie that's just lots and lots of fun. It's a movie that I saw for the first time probably way too young, and then didn't see it for years and years and years. Revisited it as an adult several times. Still love it. Quentin Tarantino, big fan of this movie. He actually uses this movie as one of the inspirations to pick the lead actress for Jackie Brown, and that movie is Coffee. And in Coffee, we meet her character. Her character is her actual last name is Coffin, but they call her Coffee. And we meet her right at the beginning, where she is kind of seducing a guy. And well, she's let me I'm messing it all up. So basically, she's presented as a junkie to a guy, and who has a thing for girls, for call girls or things like that. And she goes back with him to his house. And short story, she blows him away, as and she actually shoots him with a shot, kills him with a shotgun. And also the guy who brought her to this other guy. And the reason that we found out why is that she is trying to get revenge for her sister. Her little sister's 11 years old, but they have her strung out on heroin, and she is in the hospital right now. So she's decided she's just gonna go ahead and take down anybody who was involved in getting her little sister on drugs. All right, I think I got it together after all that.
You got it.
But yeah, so this is the opposite spectrum of a movie like 9 Days. This is a black exploitation flick.
Right.
Um, how well versed are you in black exploitation before we go further?
I've seen Foxy Brown, and
Hmm.
I've seen this one, and I have done my own limited amount of research. Now, what is the I have a box set. The guy who did the original Dolomite, do they
Rudy Ray Moore
yeah, do they factor into this as well?
as black exploitation, yes, same
Yes.
genre, yes.
Okay, okay. So um that would be my experience with it. But I thought that this would lend itself to be a great opportunity for conversation and for learning and for taking on something that is a little bit outside my wheelhouse of things that I watch often. So
Okay,
I thought it would be cool to watch this and then get to talk about it with you and maybe fill in some of the blind spots in my own film viewing.
sure, sure,
I think
absolutely.
it I
So
think it's a great subject.
okay, so you have seen Foxy Brown, which, if I'm not mistaken, was originally meant to be a sequel to Coffee because it came out the next year, but
Yeah.
then they kind of scrapped it and made her a different character. Um, so right at the beginning, what did you think was going down when she's sitting there in the back of the car and this guy is brought over to her?
Oh, well, like, I knew the plot a bit,
Okay,
so I knew it wasn't gonna go well. I knew I knew that she was not gonna be what she was portraying herself to be. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
I knew what she was doing, I just didn't know how it was gonna happen.
right,
So,
right,
I guess
yeah.
maybe by reading this well, I mean, I have the Olive Films version, so
Hmm.
it has a nice little synopsis on the back. So, I was able to kinda and I know that she is kind of named the queen of the black exploitation films, correct? Because 'Cause I've seen that
Absolutely.
in multiple, things that I've read and videos I've seen. Um, so I knew that she was gonna be this tough, no nonsense leading woman who was gonna take down anybody that was in her way. So that no surprises.
Okay, so yeah, no, no surprises. We get to the after that scene plays out, and we get to meet her friend who's a police officer, and kind of think they used to have something going on. I call him Officer Friend Zone, and she
Officer
has a
Friend
boyfriend
Zone.
who's into politics. Yeah,
I liked Officer Friend
she has
Zone
a she
better
has,
than I liked the politician.
Absolutely, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah. Okay.
But absolutely, he was. I mean, he really was a nice guy, though. I
He
mean,
was.
he
He was
just
so nice.
yeah, and he was just look trying to look out for her all the time.
Yep.
Um, then of course she has the boyfriend we just talked about who's into politics, and then she has she's kind of conflicted a little bit about what she's doing, and she's kind of looking for validation from the police officer,
Mhm.
and also is she going to be trophy wife to our politician friend? So she's got a lot happening. So my question for you is: at this point in the 1970s, can Pam Grier act?
Can Pam Grier act? She was certainly better than the other women in the film. I think she was way better, heads and tails above the other women in the film. And I think that she was even better than a lot of the men.
Hmm.
Um, I felt like she carried the movie. So yeah, I would say she can act. I mean,
Okay.
as we get older, I'm sure the more we do something, especially art, you're going to get better at it.
Hmm.
Um, but I thought she carried the whole movie. So for me, and then she was believable as that character. So
So
I would say yes.
reason I yeah, okay. Reason I asked that question is for me, I always struggle with, and I'm a huge Pam Grier fan, but I always
Right.
struggle with her older movies with her line deliveries. I
Okay.
always think that her line deliveries are weak, but she's such a force of nature
Yeah.
that she kind of overcomes that.
Yeah.
And I compare it to a movie we talked about a little bit backstage. We talked about Jackie Brown,
Yep.
and I think she's a much better actress by the time we get to Jackie Brown.
Yeah. Well, sure. I mean, she's older and she's going to get like hone her craft, if you will.
Right.
But I
Right.
thought, I think that could be. I also saw her in the Showtime series, The L Word. I watched a few episodes of it, didn't really like it, but I love Pam
Mhm.
Grier and I wanted to see Pam Grier's character. But I found her pacing of her lines to be very similar to what you're talking about, like the line delivery.
Mhm.
It was very similar, and that's how many years
Okay.
later.
Right.
So I don't know if it's a, but I felt like everybody in this movie, it was a 1970s movie. I felt like everybody's. I mean, you have Sid Haig in there, who I absolutely love,
Yeah.
and I even felt like his stuff was a little like. I mean, not that he did some big, awesome, amazing films. I mean, he did Devil's Rejects and
Yeah. Yeah.
House of a
Yeah.
Thousand Corpses. So, but I felt like even he in the 70s, he hadn't perfected his craft like he did towards the end of his career. I think it's
Right.
a, maybe just a growth thing, but I think they were both solid.
It didn't help Sid Haig that they had him try to use this accent that he was he was
Yeah, what
putting
was
on.
that accent, right?
I don't know what that was,
But you know what, too?
and
You
I
know
had
what?
forgot. It's been a little while since I've seen Coffee, so when I rewatched it, I'd forgotten about that, and I was like, oh yeah, Sid Haig's in this movie. Then he starts talking. I'm like, wait, what is he doing?
You know what
That's
made me
not Sid
laugh when
Haig. That's not his
when
voice.
it made me laugh when they went into the apartment, the guys with the ski masks on, who were supposed to be like
Yeah.
unknown, and I see Sid Haig's giant teeth. And I'm like, "That's Sid Haig." Like, and
Yeah.
I don't think they'd even showed him in the movie yet. I'm like, "He's right there, he is." I'm like, "They should have made him
He's
not
pretty hard to
smile or
miss.
something." Yeah, he's hard to miss, but it was so funny because he's so
Yeah.
young and like,
Yeah.
it was cool. It was fun. It was fun to see him in an earlier movie. But like that apartment scene when he
Yeah.
came in
Yeah.
the
He did a
ski.
lot of yeah. He did a lot of black exploitation movies actually. He was in a bunch of them.
Okay. Okay.
So that's one thing you'll see a lot of if you start watching more of them is Sid Haig. He was in at was he in Foxy Brown? I can't remember if he was in Foxy Brown. I know he was in one
I
with
can't
her
remember.
called Black Mama White Mama. He was in with her,
I have that one too.
and I
I
can't
have to
remember
watch that one.
yeah, it's another fun one, and he's definitely in that one also. Not
Okay.
the bad guy that time in that one. Um,
Oh, nice, Sid.
we mentioned the whole yeah, we mentioned the whole cast was pretty mediocre, but it was pretty to to be expected for the time, the budget, and what they were trying to accomplish. But they were just really trying to make this a vehicle for Pam Grier. And one of the things that I always enjoy in this movie are the fight scenes, her fight scenes. And what'd you think of the fight scene in the I guess at the party when she goes and she puts the razor
When
blades in
somebody
the
gets hit with a
hair?
cookie sheet, one of the
Yeah,
girls hits the other girl with the cookie sheet. We were
yeah,
laughing. I was laughing so hard because I'm like, you know what? This is like, uh, it almost it had like a certain feel to it, like a soft core feel to it, if you will. Um,
yeah,
I
it
thought
did.
it, but like you hear like the ripping, and then all of a sudden someone's dress is off, and they're running around. It was funny. It was a little comedic relief there. It made me laugh. I
Yeah,
think he cut out.
yeah, there was a
I think
few
he cut
scenes like
out a
that.
little bit.
And okay, sorry about
I can't hear you.
that. Yeah, there were a few scenes like that. Can they not hear me now? Hmm.
Well, you're cutting
Can
in
you
and
hear me?
out, but yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure what's going on there. All right. I forgot what I was gonna say. But yeah, there were a few scenes that were kind of you probably couldn't do them today. Uh
Yeah, yeah,
Particularly the
definitely.
one where yeah, particularly the one where we talked about the mask the apartment with the ski mask and
Hmm.
they throw Pam Grier down, they immediately rip her top open. And then
Yep.
the guy, I mean, he goes in both hands for the boobs, and then he's like, the other guy's like, "Hey, we got to go," and he's like, "I got to stay," and he's still grabbing at him. So that's
Yeah.
something that wouldn't fly today for
y-
sure. Um,
Right.
with that said, though, do you, how much of a girl power movie is this, if it's one at all, or is this a male fantasy kind of thing?
Uh, well, I mean, I think it's maybe a little bit of both because, like I said, I mean, like I said, a perfect example of the male fantasy would be the fight scene at the party, right?
Mhm.
Because
Right.
all kinds of things are flying, and and the guys are just kind of standing back watching this fight unfold, not doing anything. But then you have Pam Grier's, Coffee, who is she's totally committed to taking care of these people who have hurt her sister. So I think you have a combination of both. I think that the the female empowerment part of it was more well crafted than the male entertainment part of it, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah.
Like I thought that they really honed in on her empowerment, and I thought that that was an important component if you're going to make this kind of a movie to empower someone, then empower your lead character, and I think they did that. I think they did it well.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And now that you mention that, I hadn't really thought to separate the two,
Mhm.
and so, but it does make more sense because yeah, the all the male fantasy kind of stuff was a little more crudely put together,
Yeah.
and where we get a little more nuance in the other side of that story.
Yeah.
Um, Now there are some twists and turns in this story. Were you able to pick up on them beforehand, or were there some surprises?
I wasn't really surprised unless I totally missed something and it just flew right over my head, but I mean, I felt like pretty much what I thought was going to happen happened. Um, but that could just come as a
Okay.
person who has seen a lot of 70s movies.
Yeah. 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 Fair enough.
Like the
Fair
movies
enough.
from the 70s
All
are
right.
not I mean, they're usually pretty straightforward.
Yeah, yeah. The any twists that come about, you can pretty much tell what they're going to be.
Yeah, pretty
And
much.
in a movie like Yeah, and in a movie like this, with black exploitation, uh, it's it's generally gonna lead back to one or two people, and they often
Right.
have something to do with each other, and so
Yeah.
that's kind
Yeah.
of the way it played out here, and
Right.
it almost works out as like she got revenge the first time, and then she got a secondary revenge
Yep.
afterwards,
Yep.
because of something that was done and said.
Yep.
So I thought that was really, really well done, really well handled.
Yeah.
Let's check in with the chat here for a minute. Let's see what if anybody's saying anything. I definitely bring picking this movie up in the next week or two. Talking about 9 days still flip for film addiction. Caveman, happy wife, happy life. Dell, yes, absolutely. Why about horror from his caveman? At least there will be fewer Avatar films spaced further apart. Oh, he's got to get cracking on those because he's not getting any younger, James Cameron. So
Yeah, they have, I think, 3 and 4, like, coming out. They're up to 4, they're saying. They're threatening 4. So just
the
so you know.
yeah, the number keeps changing. It was 4, it was 6, it was 3.
Oh,
I
did it
don't
get
remember.
to 6?
At some point, it was
Oh,
I think it was
god.
6. It keeps changing, whatever it is.
I may be checked out by then.
The monkey for everyone when looking for her filmography. He's not talking about Inga the Carlo Fung Marchand, which is otherwise known as Foxy Brown. So that is the rapper Foxy Brown, who was out in the 90s.
Okay,
She adopted the name after the movie character.
okay.
And the monkey says Pam Grier was the Captain America to the female movement of the 70s, as Captain was to the war. So that's an interesting point because what what I find is you look at these lists and you see the greatest female action stars of all time, and they always, Sigourney Weaver's name comes up first as Alien, and then you get a lot of the ones that follow her. And truth be told, Pam Grier was before Alien,
Mhm.
and this is a comment that Tarantino made, even, and I'm paraphrasing. He said, when Shaft came out, for instance, that was kind of like the Black James Bond. Um, and it was another movie he mentioned was the black version of something else, or like for instance, Blackula was the black version of Dracula, but Pam Grier wasn't the black version of anything else because there was nothing else like her. She was it.
Right.
So she's one that I find gets left out of that conversation unfairly, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so hopefully she'll get more props as things go on. All right. And Caveman also says Pam Grier was great as the grandma in This Is Us. I've only seen like one episode of This Is Us, so I have no idea. I had no idea she was in an episode at all.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, like I said, I've seen like one episode, and not that it was a bad show. I'm just not
I'm not a
huge
TV
into
person.
TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm becoming more of one lately
Right.
because there's more shows. There's so many shows out there, and my wife and I will watch a bunch together.
Mhm.
Um, but not a huge TV guy. All right. So, what do you think of the overall style of the movie?
The overall style of the movie. Um, I have to I have to throw this back to you though. I have to throw this back
Okay.
to you a little bit because parts of it for me were a little over the top
Hmm.
and I had a hard time with it and I wanted more of Pam Grier's like her revenge or avenging her sister if you will.
Hmm.
But some of the other stuff that went on they could never do it today.
Right. Right.
And I was like, "Okay, what are they trying to show me? Like, is it these are the things that go on, so this is why we need our strong female lead?" Is that the message they're trying to convey to the audience? Like, she's standing up for the wrongs that are happening.
Hmm.
Is that did I miss the message there or
No, I no, I think you have the message right on, but at the same time, there though a lot of these movies are kind of pandering to the lowest common denominator.
Okay.
So we get a lot of the overtop things that happen in these movies, including the sexism and including the nudity that was just it was all over the place, like constantly in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that
And
was okay. Like the nudity, that's to be expected if you see like any kind of 70s movie that's going to be of this style. And like any 70s movies, I would say they got away with a lot more. Like if you
right,
think about it, Jaws was in the 70s. Jaws was rated PG. You do Jaws
PG,
today,
yeah,
it's an R-rated movie today.
absolutely,
So they just got away with more in general. But
right.
I guess what threw me was like, for instance, the car scene when Sid, and you know what I'm talking about, when Sid Haig was driving the car
Hmm.
with the
Hmm.
guy, they took the what was it, Big George?
Yes,
Big George, right?
yeah. Big George, he was the pimp. Yeah.
Yeah, that was so upsetting to me. Now, is it supposed to upset me like that? Like, and is it supposed to say this is why we need the coffees of the world? Is that the message? Or
For
did I
that
miss it?
for that particular scene, I think it's one of those things that would read that way today, but I don't
Okay.
think it read that way then.
So how is it supposed to be? Let's say, let's pretend we're in the 70s because we're watching a 70s
Right.
movie. How am I supposed to, as a viewer, like what am I supposed to, what's my takeaway from things like that?
Okay. So one, well, those kinds of things are happening, and then
Right.
the other part of it is the okay. If we're going to talk about the language that Sid Haig and the other character were using, if we're talking about that, then it's kind of making them more dislikable, even more easy to hate.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and yeah, so
Well, that
that's
wasn't hard to do.
yeah, firmly placing them on that side of things. And then as
Absolutely.
far as Big George's fate himself, it's well, he's really just another bad guy getting a comeuppance here. Um,
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah, at least that's the way I've always looked at it.
Right. Right. Because you know what it is like for a first time watch in 2023,
Hmm.
for someone who, for me, this is not a genre that I am well versed in. So for me, it's kind of a learning experience.
Hmm.
And to watch this film in particular for the first time in 2023 is probably a very different experience than if I had watched it back closer to when it was made.
Right, right,
So because it's tainted by everything that you hear every day, so it's not going to be that same experience that the filmmakers maybe intended when they made these films in the 70s.
exactly. Now, with a lot of black exploitation movies, you got to remember it's a sticking to the man ethos is what kind
Yes.
of is the thread that runs through a lot of these movies.
Yes.
And
Yes.
to do that, you kind of tap into whatever people's feelings about the man are, and how they perceive those people to talk to others, or in this case,
Gotcha.
how non-black people or how white people talk to black people, and whether it's completely 100% true all the time, but it's like, okay, we're going to make these people as evil as possible, and that's one of the easiest ways to do that is to have them
Right.
talk a certain way, use certain words.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was they I mean, they nailed that as far as putting them where they wanted them
Hmm.
by their words and actions.
Yes.
I guess I was trying to understand what it is that the filmmaker is trying to convey to us, the audience, because and tell me if I'm wrong, cut me off.
Okay.
What I've read in my very limited research is that these movies were made by black filmmakers for black audiences. Is correct? Primarily?
Not always. Matter of fact,
Okay.
this movie was directed by Jack Hill,
Okay. So
who
then
is
that's what I'm saying. The research isn't always there, isn't always accurate and up to date.
right. So you got to think about the term black exploitation and kind of
Right.
separate it. Um, exploitation, you're exploiting something, and in this
Sure.
case, you're exploiting black audiences, black actors, so on and so forth. So a lot of
Right.
these movies were actually made by, well, funded by white studios and directed by white directors, but pandering to what they thought the black audiences wanted to see. Now there are
Okay.
movies made by black directors for sure, like a Shaft uh, that was made by Gordon Parks, or like Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song was Melvin Van Peebles, and
Okay.
there are black filmmakers working at this time, but a lot of the black exploitation movies were, yeah, they were for black audiences, but they were funded by white studios and usually directed by white men. And
That's
Jack Hill, for
interesting.
instance, yeah. Jack Hill, for instance, he directed this. He directed Foxy Brown. He directed a movie called Spider Baby. He directed
Right.
Big Birdcage, The Big Dollhouse. So he did a lot of exploitation movies, not just black exploitation, just
Right.
exploitation in general.
Right.
And there were a lot of guys like that that directed a lot of these movies.
That's interesting. That's interesting because if like just the average person like myself looking it up, just trying to get more well versed,
Hmm.
um, that's what they feed you immediately. That's like almost the first line I read in everything that I looked up, which is good that it worked itself into the conversation because you corrected
Hmm.
that fact that's being put out there that's not correct.
Hmm.
Like they said they were black movie made by black directors and writers, filmmakers
Yeah,
for the audience.
the writers, it's kind of a 50-50 kind of thing. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, if you just look up the directors to a lot of these movies, you'll see that they're not black directors. But there are some that did. I mean, like I mentioned, Gordon Parks made
right,
some,
right.
and Melvin Van Peebles and a few other people that did make movies too. So there was no hard and fast rule as far as who was making these movies, but it just so happens the more well funded ones were usually funded by like Warner Brothers
Hmm,
or CBS or something like that.
okay. All right. So see, learning experience
Yeah,
because
nothing wrong with that.
it's definitely not always put out there like that. So
No.
then, you know, it made me wonder. I'm like, okay, so then what are they supposed what do they want me to take away from that? And like you said, it's basically like the stick it to the man type of thing. So whatever gets that character to the point where you want something bad to happen to him,
Right.
that's what they're going to do through the plot to take you there. So that makes sense.
Right.
All
Right.
right. Gotcha.
That's exactly right. All right. Caveman. No one remembers her from Mars Attacks.
Was she in Mars Attacks?
Yes, she was. I haven't seen Mars Attacks though. I know she was in it, but I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Everybody tells me I need to.
Oh, I love Mars Attacks. Why do I not remember her in that? I'm going to watch Mars Attacks tonight.
There you go. Uh, Film Addiction. Y'all should add a rating out of like 5 stars at the end of each discussion. I sometimes I will talk about a rating, and if the guest wants to rate it, that's more than welcome to. But I kind of like to let the things that I'm saying about the movie tell you how I feel about the movie, because when you add a rating to it, you're kind of stuck to that, and then you have to justify whether it's a 4 or 3 or 5 or whatever the case may be. Excuse me for a second.
Bless you.
Yeah, got a cough happening here.
Oh no.
But yeah, that's so. But and that's something I may change if enough people want that. But that's the way I always feel about the movies. I know on my letterbox you can see a star, you can see a grade for it, but just because it's kind of easy to do on letterbox. But when I'm doing this, I just prefer to let whatever I'm saying or the guest is saying tell how we feel about the movie. I'm adding this one as well. Loved her and Jackie Brown, and she is hot.
Hot.
Yes, as I said, I'm a big fan.
She's beautiful.
The monkey Pam Grier was so sick of being seen in that light, she jumped at the chance at being in the adventures of Pluto Nash. Now that's a lot of years later, so I don't know if she was still being seen in that light. And that's after a movie like Posse, and Original Gangsters, and so yeah, that's a lot of years later where she wasn't as in demand. It was before, I think it was before Jackie Brown though, Pluto Nash, if I'm not mistaken. Definitely need to check out more of her films. Not the biggest fan of Jackie Brown, honestly, but Samuel and Pam stole
Oh,
that show, in my opinion. Yeah,
I
we talked
love
about this
Jackie
backstage.
Brown.
Yeah, we both love Jackie Brown, so
Yeah.
you kind of hit us hard right
Oh,
there.
that hurt.
Yeah, movies are subjective, as they say, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. This movie won't be for everyone, but for outrageous cinema or grindhouse fans, it's a feast for the senses. Absolutely, caveman. This is that type of movie, and Film Addiction says right up my alley. And you should really listen to the last season of the Tom podcast that was about Pam Grier. They talk about all of this. I've never heard of that, and that is Yvette, who I know from Instagram. So thank you for coming out, and I will have to check out that podcast. I've never heard of that one. Tom podcast, the Tom podcast. Okay, I'll have to check that out. And makes sense, Dell. I respect that. And TCM podcast. Okay, so we got TCM podcast. Okay, so I will definitely be on the lookout for those. So we got some corrections there. All right. So anything else about the movie that you wanted to touch on that I really didn't get into?
No, I mean, I think it was a good time. I love Pam Grier. Like I think she was awesome, no nonsense, awesome female lead, strong, empowered, ready to kick some butt, and I could watch her in anything. I think she's
Okay.
fantastic. And I loved seeing Sid Haig. I thought that was great. And I think it was a lot of fun. And obviously if you can sit here and watch it in 2023 and still sit and have a conversation about it, it's a film worth watching, as would be
Okay.
any film she's in, I would say is worth watching. But in particular, I definitely feel like this is one that I will definitely revisit and see through new eyes.
Okay. Good. Good. And that's always good because we just talked about it with the other movie. You go back to a movie and
Yeah.
you find different things. And I'm gonna go ahead and finish out with the chat, and then we'll go ahead and put this puppy to bed.
All right.
And my bad, LOL, it's a good film, just a lower for Quentin Tarantino for me.
It's subjective. It's all in good fun.
It is, and
Yeah.
I'm to be honest, I'm one where it's kind of sitting near the top for me, not right at the top, but it's near the top for
Yeah.
me. And his newer works are all kind of sliding in towards the bottom for me, but that's just me. The monkey at least took that away from her performance, as she could make a short film into a watchable masterpiece. I felt she acted unfavorably in it on purpose. And I'm maybe you're talking about Pluto Nash. Let me know, monkey. I'm not sure. And K-Man, don't put Cody in the corner. Yeah, we got some dirty dancing references.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. KB says fun episode with great choices. Thank you, KB. I appreciate it.
KB.
All right, so here's the part where I turn the stage back over to you, Stephanie, and I let you tell all these folks about you and your channel and anything else that you want us to know.
Well, first, Dell, I want to thank you for inviting me on to do this with you. I really had a great time with our conversation and sharing film thoughts and swapping films with each other. Um, and I have to have you over on my channel one of these days to do a chat. And you can find me at Movie Chatter. I am on YouTube and on Instagram, same name. And on my YouTube channel, if you haven't been over there, I do movie collections, I do hauls, I do film recommendations, we do deep dive videos with friends, other their friends in the film community. So a little bit of everything, and we focus on physical media collecting, obviously. And come over and say hello.
All right, absolutely. Go say hi, guys. Again, if you're not sub to it, just go ahead and do it because it's a great channel, and also check out Cinema Dave. You two do a great stream every weekend. Um, I've been enjoying that stream now. I guess a couple months now because when I found out about it finally.
Yeah,
So yeah.
We have a good time with that. Cinema Dave is an awesome friend, and he's great. And him and his wife Jessie runs. She does all the running of the chat and keeps us on in line. And they're just great people, and we're just having so much fun with the Saturday Live. So definitely check out Dave's channel. Dave is a wealth of film knowledge.
Yes, he does. And check out each other in the chat because, like I always say,
Yep.
there's a lot of good content creators out there. So definitely check each other out. As for me on this channel, next week is another big week for me. I have Mel, everybody's favorite final girl, my killer podcast. She'll be in on the 15th. The following week, I'm going to have my first big stream, my big top 5 stream. I'm gonna have KB is gonna be in here, Nerdy Film Girl, and by Just Johnson and Huck from Huck's Pop Culture Cafe, and Ryan Movies with Ryan. We're all gonna get together and talk about our favorite hench people. So I'm gonna give out top 5 hench people on that day. And I believe on the 22nd, I'm going to be on Mega Mike. I was trying to look at my calendar here. I'm going to be on with him, and we're talking about back to school movies. So we're going to have a good time with that. And just running through these last few comments, the monkey was talking about Pluto Mash, where he said she did not perform well on purpose. I don't know. I haven't seen Pluto Mash, so I would hope that's not the case, even if it's a bad film. And great time as always, says Caveman. Thank you, Dell and Stephanie, in a film masterclass. Wow. High
Cool.
praise. And the monkey's asking if Mel is making me watch The Burbs. I've already seen The Burbs, so she is not making me watch The Burbs. But that is all I have for you guys tonight. Thanks for coming out, and hopefully we'll